If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's generally a good mantra to follow, not just in life itself, but also in professional wrestling, with repetition being par for the course for many talents across several different mediums. Get a catchphrase, hammer it into the ground. Get a new catchphrase, hammer it into the ground. It's worked for The Rock, Stone Cold, and Jericho the world over. However, repetition has also harmed a lot of WWE stars, young and old, as well, as fans are forced to watch the same tired gimmick play on week in, week out. In these moments, the industry needs a fix. Either drop the angle, change the look, or even just have them wrestle someone else to bring them up to the right level. However, today we're going to look at the times that Vince and company pulled the trigger way too soon and squandered something that actually didn't need any tweaking at all. With this in mind, I'm Jules of WhatCulture.com, and these are 10 times the WWE tried to fix something that wasn't broken. Speaking of tired, worn-out gimmicks, I finally got those t-shirts that I was promising you all way back way. Huzzah! So drop by shop.whatculture.com to check out the designs that I've got on offer. To be honest, I actually only took this list to make fun of myself for this exact reason. So yes, I am very aware, self-aware, painfully so. Right, on with the list. Number 10, Daniel Bryan. I mean, he should have been inserted at the top of the card as soon as he walked back through the door, right? The crowd have been on meltdown for the stiff-kicking dragon, and the WWE could have rewarded years of pent-up frustration by having him just main event a Mania. Hell, they could have even just teased that one Mania match for a whole year, and it would have been perfect. But having him start again with the likes of Big Cass and other mid-carders really wasn't the best thing to do with the man who didn't need any help to get over with the fans. Bryan already overcame ultimate adversity by returning in the first place, having defeated WWE's medical staff. WWE had a ready-made headliner on their hands in an age of so few headliners, so what did they do? They started him at the bottom, which was an unforgivably wasteful development. Number 9, One Night Stand. For a short old while, 2 years to be exact, One Night Stand was one of the most hotly anticipated nights of the WWE calendar. It was essentially just a nostalgic throwback to the good old days of chaotic mid to late 90s ECW, replete with cameos from some of your favorite extreme wrestlers meshed together with the old corporate heat machine. This couldn't last forever, of course. The likes of Sandman, Taz, and Sabu were getting a little long in the tooth, so you could see an expiration date on the event, but no one expected to see the shift in the second version of One Night Stand to be so apparent. In 2007, it became another run-of-the-mill WWE pay-per-view, with the only difference being that all matches were fought under Extreme Rules. What's more baffling about this is that they did have one or two of the ECW originals still under their employ, so they could have conceivably stayed faithful to the original concept, but no, it was going to be all homogenous, or not at all, for Vinnie Mac. Number 8, Kane. To be fair, Kane, though not exactly broken, was definitely on the brink when WWE made the decision for him to unmask himself in June 2003. After becoming a more vocal presence on the mic, sharing a kiss with Terry Runnels, and, well, being outed as a weird necrophiliac, he was no longer the unstoppable big red machine that had debuted 5.5 years earlier. But it was just fine-tuning that was needed, not really a whole new engine. He just needed to step away from the silly and, well, to put it bluntly, embrace the hate. The unmasking was nothing like what we expected and, to be honest, felt like a massive waste of time. From feuding with Shane McMahon to reigniting his sibling rivalry with Taker, there was really nothing he did without the mask that he couldn't have done with it. And he was a much less intimidating figure when you realised that he didn't actually have any physical scars, despite selling us all on the idea that he did have them. Number 7, Lance Storm. Lance Storm is what you would probably best term as a wrestler's wrestler, in that he is appreciated by his fellow professionals and not so much by those booking the show, nor in many cases by the fans themselves. And that was never more apparent than when the former ECW star, who at the time was one of the industry's most revered technicians, made his way to the WWE in the early 2000s. Now let's face facts, Storm was always going to struggle a bit in the land of the giants, but actively getting the crowd to boo him was not going to help him in the slightest. This would have been permissible for a young star in need of something that fans could latch onto, but Storm had shown from his time in the WCW that he was a legitimate mid-card wrestler. He had the pedigree, but ended up looking like a right mutt in the WWE thanks to this. Number 6, Wade Barrett. Wade Barrett's Bad News Barrett rebrand in 2014 was initially a great success, right up until management was said to have grown concerned that he was becoming popular with the audience despite nominally being a heel. I mean, come on, really, why is this such a bad thing? thing. I mean, sometimes we can actually like the bad guy, but still recognize them as the bad guy for storyline purposes. Well, not that thick, come on. As a solution, they had the former Nexus leader win the King of the Ring tournament the following year. Thereafter, he came to the ring in an actual cape and a crown, you know, the way that Booker T did a decade earlier, and loads of other people before that. With the name change, King Barrett essentially swapped a fresh and at times genuinely entertaining gimmick for a turn as a generic foreign heel who took excessive amount of pride in their homeland. And trust me, mates, we're English, we don't have any pride in our country, look at who's fucking running it. Number 5, Emma. WWE's booking of Emma was, and until now remains, one of the great wrestling mysteries of our time, alongside who threw the pie at Kevin Owens. Seriously, who threw that pie at Kevin Owens? I'm going to actually do a Making the Murderer of who threw the pie. I'm going to do that as a video. I'm going to pitch that to the bosses in a minute. Anyway, for a couple of years, the Australian was among the top female performers on the NXT brand before earning a much-deserved main roster call-up in the early part of 2016. But after failing to find her place in a competitive women's division and then suffering a costly injury after WrestleMania 32, she was taken off TV for the better part of a year. When she finally returned, though, she was no longer Emma, but the evil Emelina, a character that we only ever saw in short vignettes and never, not once, in the flesh, because they pulled the plug on the whole thing like a rich relative on life support. What was the point of all of this? Well, apparently, according to sources, creative had finally realized just before debuting her that she wasn't actually a good fit for the role. No kidding, what a waste. Number 4, Chavo Guerrero. Chavo Guerrero was an always reliable, if slightly unspectacular worker for the WWE for more than a decade after making the jump from WCW in 2001. He wore many guises over that time as well, whether it was being a faithful nephew to Uncle Eddie, a bitter, jealous nephew to Uncle Eddie, or a sidekick to Aunt Vicky and Uncle Edge, I guess, in La Familia. But one thing remained constant. He was always a proud third-generation member of the Guerrero clan. Well, nearly always, because for a brief period in 2005, he inexplicably dropped the legendary name in favor of Kerwin White, dyed his hair peroxide blonde, and began driving a golf caddy to the ring while wearing a plaid sweater. Why? Well, Simon's not here to answer that, but I can answer it for you. Nobody really knows, but it lasted for about 5 minutes before saner heads prevailed. Thank God. Number 3, Money in the Bank. Remember when Money in the Bank was part of the WrestleMania furniture? It used to be one of the main attractions of that card, and amongst the few occasions of the WWE calendar alongside the Royal Rumble that you could actually see talent from Raw and SmackDown go head-to-head. Often positioned at the bottom of the show, it was actually a great way to whet the fans' appetite ahead of the marquee matches to come and ensured that floating mid-carders actually had something to do on the biggest night of the year. Now, you can understand why they moved it to the springtime where there's often little else going on, but seriously, let's all admit it feels a little less special now, even though it's got its own pay-per-view. It's kind of hard to explain, but every time you saw Carmella or Baron with a case, did you really feel that bolt of lightning that you did when it was in Edge's hands? Short answer, no. Number 2. The Undertaker. Ask a cross-section of 100 wrestling fans which iteration of The Undertaker that they prefer, and about 101 people will tell you that the dead man was better. It's not that the American Badass was, well, bad. Hell, he put more feet in asses than even your mum would allow on that weird porn channel she's on. There's my one per list, but the dead man is surely the best man. It all comes down to the aura, in that the American Badass didn't really have any except his own mean and gruff attitude. The dead man, however, carries with him this hokey, spooky aesthetic which cannot be replicated. And really, it's no coincidence that he returned to WrestleMania form when he emerged from the other side in his original guise after being buried alive by Kane in 2003. And number 1, Goldberg. It still boggles the mind that the WWE dropped the ball so hard with Goldberg in his first run with the company in the early 2000s. The man became the MVP of WCW and still remains one of the very few things that company got consistently right. Squash matches, the streak, sheer dominance, it is not rocket science. Yet the WWE put him in longer matches against clunky opponents and had that awful moment of power tripping when Triple H insisted that he defeat Goldberg in one hit, which simply just exposed his shortcomings. This was a package presented to the WWE which needed no alterations, and yet they dropped him in the mud. Luckily, the second run undid a lot of the bad vibes, and Goldberg was allowed to retain that sweaty dominance that he'd worked up in WCW. And they even gave him back his original music for that run, which inexplicably they changed the first time around. Maybe it was for copyright reasons, who knows? All I know is it wasn't as good. But that's just a personal gripe though. Anyway, those were 10 times the WWE tried to fix something that wasn't broken. Let me know what you thought about it down in the comments section below. And like I said before, please swing by shop.whatculture.com to check out the lovely merch that we've got going on. It's nearly Christmas, but I'm a piece of shit. I mean, a great item. And as always, I've been Jules. You can follow me at RetroJ with a 0 over on Twitter. You've been awesome, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye!